Three, two, one. Some people call it chat control, others call it client-side scanning. If you haven't heard about this particular crazy bit of surveillance technology, then I suggest you go and read up or just do a bit of an internet search on the keywords chat control or client-side scanning. Look, there's trouble brewing here in Europe with a plan by the European Union to enforce client-side scanning on pretty much everyone's connection to online media, social media resources, whatever you do. So the idea is that you are going to be posting stuff. Some people are going to be doing naughty things online, and this is a way to, again, preempt and prevent, at least in theory, nasty people doing naughty things online. It's all about protecting children. At least that's what the public discourse is all about. It's about preventing CSAM, or child sexual abuse material. But in reality, it's about you and me, average people who use things online, having our conversations scanned before we send them. And that, to me, is just outrageous. We've made a big deal, and I think we've managed to become pretty good at building end-to-end encryption into our communication technologies and some of the platforms that we use. We've put a lot of faith, too much faith, into tech companies doing the right thing and saying, yeah, we have your privacy in hand. We're good. We do end-to-end encryption, so no one can see your communications as they go through our platform. And that's all good and fine. But what happens when Big Brother can see what you're typing or what photo you've taken before you actually send it? And that's what client-side scanning or chat control is all about. It's all about being able to verify before you've actually communicated it, to verify that what you are about to send meets some criteria. And sure, today, all of that is focused on so-called CSAM, child sex abuse material, because, hey, that is something that we can all agree on is unacceptable in society. 100%. And there's no issue there, but that being used as a wedge to push in a much more global and a much more pervasive surveillance society, where we have mass surveillance, where everyone's communication is intercepted before we actually send it. Because, hey, we can't put the genie back into the bottle and ban end-to-end encryption. That just can't work anymore, because if we ban one platform, we try to ban Telegram or Signal or WhatsApp, there are going to be other platforms and ones that are more open and more decentralized. Think about platforms or technology like Matrix, which allows you to run your own node and your own server infrastructure and create closed user groups. That will all happen. But hey, if we're all using the same type of devices, so if we're using an Android smartphone or we're using an iOS and Apple device, the client-side scanning is going to get built into the underlying mobile operating system. That's one. And the other thing as well is that there are going to be core technologies that will enable the client-side scanning to happen. Think about how with WhatsApp, you now have Meta AI baked into WhatsApp. WhatsApp is going to ask you, hey, wouldn't you like to have Meta AI help you write what you're about to say? So it's going to take the rough thoughts that you're going to type on your device, and it's going to send that to Meta, and Meta's going to basically wordsmith what you're going to write. Now, that sounds very practical, and trust me, it's pretty useful. I mean, I use AI platforms for helping me write articles I publish, and I do that deliberately because I'm wanting to actually get some feel and experience and understand, hey, this is how the thing works. But something else I can't quite put my finger on, but I've noticed this for a while. You know, I thought maybe it was my mobile phone, my smartphone getting a little bit old. Maybe. But I get the feeling that sometimes it slows down when I'm typing things, because I get the feeling that there's background network traffic happening where what I'm typing is going somewhere. That's just a hunch right now because, to be honest, I haven't actually done any network packet captures, and maybe that is something that I will do. But what I can say is this, is that client-side scanning has absolutely no place in our society, all right? So say no to chat control, and if you're in the European Union, write to your Minister of Parliament, write to your elected officials, and let them know that this is unacceptable. It's better if you go to your MP in your country and have that Member of Parliament put pressure on the national parliament in your country and have that go through the European Council of Ministers, because that is the best way at European Commission level to get this stopped. But it really worries me, this whole thing, because we're sleepwalking into something that George Orwell so massively understated in 1984. It's not our TV. It's not the big screen in the living room, although that also can listen to what we're saying if we've got things like Android or Apple TV boxes that have microphones embedded in them. A lot of that is there in the living room, but it's more about what we carry around, that little supercomputer that we carry around in our pocket. And with all of the way that we're taking not large language models, but small language models that we don't know enough about on the details. They're not very transparent, some of them. And when those small language models go onto your phone, well, you're going to now have a mechanism where what you are going to say or what you are going to share, and it's not just text, it's photos, it's videos. Those things are going to be something that we're not speaking up enough about. Most of us are so distracted. We're distracted by authoritarianism in the public sphere, with the political class in some of the big countries showing authoritarian tendencies. So that's been a distraction. There's war and conflict going on in some other parts of the world, and that's a distraction. We've got some pretty fragile things happening in the economy, and people are feeling more precarious, and that's a distraction, and so on. Because we live in an age where we are permanently distracted. We're distracted by the media comms cycle, by the news cycle. We're distracted by all of the crazy noise that happens on social media. And everyone, including me, I'm guilty of it as well. We're all trying to drive likes and reactions and engagement on social media. So no wonder we're distracted. And because we're distracted, we're not seeing what's happening right under our noses here in Europe with a continental initiative to introduce something called client-side scanning or chat control, which is to legislate and have European law and regulations impose on everyone that uses some kind of internet communication service and those who operate them and provide devices and provide infrastructure to be part of mass surveillance. And it's all done in the name of protecting children. Because the way it's been framed in a way that if you disagree with client-side scanning or chat control, you're seen to be part of some very nasty things, because it's all linked to stopping or preventing CSAM, or child sex abuse material. And that's right. That is absolutely revolting and should have no place in human society. But spying on people's communication, on their photos, on their videos, before they get exchanged over a communications network, man, that is really a whole other level, because you end up opening the door to mass surveillance. Because if it's CSAM today, what is it going to be tomorrow? Tomorrow, if we want to hold our governments to account, if we want to hold our elected officials to account, if we want to hold private enterprises to account, if we would like to simply disagree with someone else's opinion, is that going to be held against us because what we are writing or taking photos of or taking videos of and planning to share, that gets scanned and compared against an algorithm of known acceptable behavior? And if someone else decides that that behavior is not acceptable for their view of society, that you don't have the right to actually speak freely about it online, that's like really bad, dangerous stuff. And so my feeling here is that either we're going to see a resurgence in more analog modes of communication, and maybe we're going to go back to an era before the internet was widespread, where it's going to be letters, secret messages, face-to-face interactions. But you know what? Out there in the streets, there are cameras everywhere. And so where are you actually going to be able to have the space to have public discourse outside of surveillance? It seems almost that the ability to do things with true privacy, that those spaces are getting fewer and fewer, that there's fewer and fewer of them in our society today. So what are you going to do about it? I know what I'm going to do about it. I'm going to make a conscious effort to no longer use certain applications and to progressively wind down the use of certain devices as part of my toolbox. And it's going to be hard, or I'm going to use that type of technology for very specific cases. For the rest, well, maybe next time, instead of recording this on a digital camera and editing it digitally, I'm going to do everything analog. And we might see a resurgence in the use of analog medium, being able to share video cassettes, even actual printed photographs. That would be really interesting. But yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts. What are you doing about this?